All right. I'm Ray. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Loose Button, and we're one of the companies that built a new business called Exact Media about 18 months ago. You'll have to bear with me. I told Alex this, but I've been hermiting for the last really 18 months, not doing any speaking, and so to make it worse, I developed my speech on the cab ride here, and then Carrie from Rubik Cloud actually stole my thunder and talked about talent, which was what I was going to speak to you guys about. So bear with me. The easiest way to explain Exact Media to you is we've basically built one of the largest ad networks for the physical world. The way in which we do this is we allow some of the world's largest advertisers to put in targeted product samples into the parcels of big online retailers. So a simple example of how this works. So say this gentleman right here orders a shirt online from an online retailer, so that, hey, chances are you're probably going to do your laundry at some point in time. So we'll help a brand like Tide put in a sample of their laundry detergent into the parcel of that order. So basically we're piggybacking off of a shipment that's going out, and essentially we're helping the retailer monetize that empty space in their parcels, and we're allowing the brand and the advertiser to go after a highly targeted shopper. So the topic that I want to focus on today in terms of challenge really goes around a topic that I think a lot of people talk about, but very few have figured out a great way of doing it, particularly early stage startups, and that's around the issue of people. Now, Carrie talked about it as a priority. I'll talk a bit more about just how to focus on people. And to give some context for you guys, I'll share a little history of our business. So we started about June of last year with Exact Media. In our first 60 days, we went from 0 to 1 million in sales, and in our first 7 months, we went from 1 to 5 million. And so went through this sort of rapid growth stage for the business. And any sort of phase when you go through something like this, you're sort of naturally forced to ask yourself, well, how do I grow my team? And how do I build in the systems and the processes and the experience to help me scale and grow this business? And so we did naturally what I think most people would do, which is we said, well, let's hire anybody and everybody in our networks and let's start interviewing. And so we did that. And the very first thing that we did was I went through my network, asked for people to make introductions to people who we may want to hire for a particular area. We brought them in, looked at their resumes. If we found that there was a good fit, we'd ask them a few key questions, which at the time I thought were brilliant questions. Things like, what's your passion? What do you love to do? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What are you really good at? What are you not very good at? Sort of these key things that I thought I could read through gut feel and make a good call whether they were the right fit or not. So we made our first, I'd say, 3 hires off of that approach, and it's something I now call voodoo hiring techniques. As sort of the honeymoon period disappeared, which was about a month or two into working with the individuals, one of the things we started to see was sort of the true colors, issues that we didn't see at the interview stage, things that we didn't catch or really fully understand or even really probe deeper into. And so months went by and a few weeks went by, and made a decision that, look, we've got to start letting these people go, and that there wasn't a right fit. And it got to a point where we were growing incredibly fast, but we just didn't have the right people who we were bringing on board. And it was probably one of the most frustrating periods of our company, because we knew that there was this massive opportunity to go after it, but we didn't have the team in place to actually conquer it. And so what we ended up doing was I did some deep thinking as to what we wanted to do and how we were going to solve this, and shift our focus into basically looking after how we would hire ahead of talent, how we would build the structures and the processes to really get better at hiring. And instead of using these voodoo techniques, to start turning hiring into more of a science and to engineer the process. And so we ended up hiring a head of talent who's incredibly good for us and very experienced, someone who's been with many other fast-growing startups. And we started to really build out the process of how we would source candidates, and now we have a sourcing team that looks for talent, vets them. We have an initial screening process, which we do only by phone. We spend less than 30 minutes. If you pass that filtering process, we then go through something called top grading, and we literally grill you. Well, not so much of a grill, but we go back from the time pretty much from the time you're in high school to where you are today. By the end of that, we know pretty much everything about you, from why you decided to pick that university to why you love that job, why you didn't, so on and so forth. And what's happened for us is it's dramatically changed our business and reduced that sort of gut feel into far more, really just a higher probability of getting the right people. And the reason why I bring this up is being incredibly important is because as startups and as founders, some of the most valuable things that we have are not, the opportunities, but really just time. And when you make the wrong hire, not only are you wasting your time, but you're wasting the people on your team's time. And that's something you can't get back. And time is often the thing that really will determine if your business will succeed or not. And so if there's anything that I can hopefully impart with you guys, it's as your business is growing, and you'll probably try the voodoo techniques yourself, but once you see that you've made a few mistakes, hopefully you'll remember back today and figure out how you can prioritize talent and really make it a big part of how you grow your business. Thank you. Yep.
What was the biggest red flag for you when you hired the wrong people?
I think in the early days when we were using our voodoo techniques, I think a lot of it was the assumption that just because people have had success in one place, and in our case it was an area of looking for a salesperson, that it would automatically translate into success in our sales team. And I think you've got to understand the nuances of, some teams are great to hire that person who's really good at door-to-door selling knives. Other people, and particularly enterprise, an example, if you're in B2B, it's a very different sales process. Far more consultative, far more strategic in how you sell, and I think you've got to be able to distinguish the two things. And so it's sort of, you can't sort of cookie cutter these hires and assume that just because they've done well in one area that they'll do well in yours. Yeah.
In your example of the shirt and tie, if that consumer ends up falling in love with Tide, how do you track that conversion to communicate the ROI?
Yeah, it's a good question. We do this in a number of ways, but one of the fundamental things about going after online retailers is they have the opportunity to retarget customers. And so unlike if you were to get a sample on the street, the minute you get that sample, you're gone and you've disappeared and I have no way of getting back to you. Whereas through online retailers, I know exactly when you've received that parcel, what you've ordered, and I have the ability to collect feedback from you. So that's data in one aspect that we're able to use to measure the effectiveness of our campaigns.
How do you combine that though with the shirt site and then Tide as well though?
So it can be done in many ways. So it can be done through a survey. In some of our retailers' cases, they actually sell the products. And so we can see that they're sampling the product and we can see if they actually purchase the product. So we use data from various different sources to see what conversion data is like. Yeah. Great, thank you.